What was supposed to be the biggest event over the weekend was Friday night. Jake Paul fighting Mike Tyson live on Netflix from AT&T Stadium in Texas. And it was an event, but it did not live up to the billing whatsoever. I don't think anybody who watched that fight, who tried to watch the fight, walked away feeling like they got, even though, you know, the price of admission was a Netflix subscription, you still feel like you didn't get your money's worth.
Yeah, it was definitely disappointing, whether it comes to the fight itself or the technical difficulties that Netflix always seems to have whenever they do live events. It just overall fell pretty flat.
Yes, that was one of the big complaints, first of all, was that it was more of an issue, at least for me, leading up to the actual main event and up to the Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight. Once they started fighting, I don't remember, the Netflix's
buffering.
stream dying or the buffering being as much of a major issue. But leading up to the fight, during some of the undercard fights and the other excitement leading up to it, it was definitely not inspiring a lot of confidence that everything kept buffering and shutting down. Then you get to the actual fight, which was, it definitely felt fake. It felt like we all got lied to a little bit. And I don't think that Mike Tyson went out there knowing that he was going to look so pathetic as he did. Like some of the stuff he said afterwards, like I think it meant a lot to him to get out there and do this one more time. But I think everybody going into the fight knew that like there's no shot that Mike Tyson is knocking out Jake Paul. Anybody who was involved in the training and leading up to it would have known. Once you got out, one thing I did hear between the time that we talked about it here on the show and then when the actual fight happened was that, and I don't know this much about boxing.
Yeah.
But the rules for this fight were different. First of all, it was only 2-minute rounds, which is much shorter. Secondly, though, the gloves were much heavier, which means they were much more padding in the gloves, which means that even if Mike Tyson could have delivered like a real knockout punch, there's so much more padding to make that blow not as impactful to Jake Paul, and it really decreased the odds of either one of them getting a knockout.
Yeah.
Mike Tyson he won the first 2 rounds, I think, by this scorecard, and then the next subsequent 6 or whatever, Jake Paul definitely dominated because by that point, Mike Tyson looked out of energy.
Right. Which I know we talked about on Friday when we were kind of previewing this fight. We were thinking, well, if Tyson can somehow get that knockout punch early on, this fight's over, obviously. But if it's a fight that's going to go several rounds, we gave the advantage to Jake Paul because he's just the younger guy. He's got more stamina. So that seems to be kind of what happened. But I didn't know the thing about the padding and the gloves and anything like that. Like we said on Friday, neither of us are boxing fans. So we don't know a lot about boxing, but it just seemed like that was going to be how it was going to go. Either Tyson's going to get a knockout early on and the fight's over, or this fight's going long and that advantage goes to Jake Paul. Yeah,
it was disappointing. Like you said, we're not boxing fans. This did not turn me into a boxing fan. I was like, this just feels staged. And what's sad was like the way it played out too. I was thinking at least if it's staged, they're going to try to add some drama to it. Like each one of them is going to get knocked down at some point. There was none of that. It was really just entirely disappointing, boring. If it wasn't the 2 names involved, it was boring. It was not interesting. The fight before, where it did have the buffering issues, was a women's boxing match between Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano that also went the distance. Amanda Serrano wound up getting her eye busted open.
Yeah.
Many boxing experts say she should have won even though she lost by a judge's decision. That was much more thrilling, much more exciting. Maybe because those were both actual boxers that, like still box. Yeah. Even though they're not Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. So that did more to turn me into a boxing fan than anything. But yeah, it was just like, it just wasn't exciting. Even the entrances, like Jake Paul comes out playing In the Air Tonight. And I feel like at that point we should have known. We should have just been like, this is all a work right here.
This is not going well.
Yeah.
But I do have one question for you, Hudson.
Yeah.
Who is Jake Paul going to fight next?
Nobody of consequence. Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
Nobody that's... It's going to be a name and we're all going to be like, oh, maybe this is it. It's not going to be it. We need to stop. We need to learn our lesson.
While you're here, you should watch more of our videos and subscribe so you don't miss what we do next.